Introduction. It's wonderful to be here with all of you this afternoon. I want to start out by thanking and congratulating your outgoing chair, Keith Hennessy, and incoming chair, Jermaine Johnson, and the entire board for all that you do to advance growth in the Capital Region. Thank you all very, very much for your leadership. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be with you here today to reflect. You know, I'm on the way out the door here after 8 years, and this gives us a chance to reflect on the economic turnaround that we've made possible in Maryland. And before I start, I want to thank two superstars from our cabinet who had a whole lot to do with Maryland's economic transformation. We have two of our Commerce secretaries, current Secretary Mike Gill and former Secretary Kelly Schultz. Thank you very much for your leadership. You know, when we took office in 2015, frankly, Maryland was not pulling its weight in the region. They were calling us the California of the East, and they did not mean that as a compliment. But we had 43 consecutive tax hikes, which crushed our economy. We lost 8,000 businesses and more than 100,000 jobs, and our overall economic performance was 49th out of 50 states. Nearly half, there was a Gallup poll that came out that said nearly half of all Marylanders wanted to leave the state. And that's what made me decide to run for governor, to try to do something about that. And we pulled off the biggest surprise upset in America, in America's bluest state as a Republican. We immediately put the state on a new path with a new mission to be unabashedly pro-business, pro-jobs, and pro-innovation. And as I was being sworn in, at the very same moment I was taking the oath of office, we were changing all the state highway signs as you came in from Washington, D.C. or Virginia, and it said, "Welcome to Maryland, we're open for business." And it wasn't just a slogan, it became really our entire mission. And it marked a sea change in how the state of Maryland operated and how it worked with and interfaced with the business community. We streamlined or eliminated 14,000 regulations. And we cut tolls, taxes, and fees 8 years in a row by $4.7 billion, including the largest tax cuts in history 2 years in a row, the past 2 years, this year and last year. We turned a record $5.1 billion deficit into a $5.1 billion surplus, the largest surplus in state history, more than a $10 billion turnaround. We went from losing 100,000 jobs to gaining more than 100,000 jobs. We went from losing thousands of businesses to setting records for new business starts. And we went from 49th out of 50 states to number 6 in economic performance, which is the biggest economic turnaround in America. And the sea change is evident everywhere you look across our state. And not only did we keep Marriott, we're so proud to have Marriott headquartered in Maryland, and we kept them in Montgomery County. We got them to expand their presence with a new state-of-the-art headquarters in downtown Bethesda. Recently, in Hagerstown, Hitachi Rail is completing a massive factory where they'll build a new fleet of 8,000 series cars for Metro, creating 1,300 jobs in Washington County. In Baltimore County, one of our biggest, earliest successes was McCormick, the iconic spice company, 110 years in Maryland. They were on their way to Pennsylvania when I got elected, and we convinced them not only to stay and build a new 350,000 square foot global headquarters in Hunt Valley, but recently they just expanded their footprint in Maryland with the addition of a 1.8 million square foot distribution center at Trade Point Atlantic, which has quickly turned into a logistics and distribution powerhouse on the East Coast, attracting BMW, Under Armour, Amazon, Home Depot, and many others. In Prince George's County, we're making major investments in the Blue Line corridor. We've launched a number of major projects. Maryland has strengthened the state's partnerships with our premier federal institutions, including the NIH, the FDA, NSA, and U.S. Cyber Command. And with 74 federal laboratories, more than twice as many as any other state in the country, we have built a world-class life sciences cluster with hundreds of companies, including Novavax in Gaithersburg, Loom in Frederick, and most recently, Korea-based Unbio in Rockville just made a $100 million commitment to the region following our recent trade mission to Asia. And with the fastest growing tech workforce in the country, we have leveraged our unmatched federal assets to diversify our economy, solidifying our standing as the cyber capital of America, and continuing and working together with Connected DMV to launch a quantum revolution with a growing pipeline of quantum startups, as well as the nation's leading quantum companies, IonQ, which started at the University of Maryland, last year became the world's first public quantum computing company. And none of this would have been possible without the Greater Washington Board of Trade. And I want to thank all of you for helping us to make Maryland truly open for business. Yeah, thank you. Clap for yourselves. You deserve it. But there are some long-term priorities that will continue to require the urgent attention of the region's leaders. First, we need to continue to stay ahead of the national labor shortage and focus on bringing more skilled workers into the workforce. We've taken a number of bold steps in Maryland to knock down real-world barriers to good-paying jobs and to leave no skilled worker behind. We brought the P-TECH model to Maryland, which gives young Marylanders an opportunity to earn an associate's degree, tuition-free, simultaneously with their high school diploma, while also getting the benefits of mentors and paid summer internships. We enacted the Access Initiative, which requires every single public school in Maryland to offer computer science courses. Through our Earn Maryland program, we've already provided job training to over 9,000 unemployed or underemployed Marylanders, and nearly 20,000 Maryland workers have received training to earn a new certification, a credential, or a skill. We recently surpassed the record milestone of 12,000 apprenticeships statewide. And by offering registered apprenticeships not just in the construction trades, but also in non-traditional sectors, including cybersecurity and information technology. And earlier this year, Maryland became the first state in the nation to formally eliminate the four-year college degree requirement from thousands of state jobs. And I'm pleased to report that this program has led to a 41% increase in non-four-year degree hires for the state of Maryland. And in October, we launched a $15 million Jobs That Build initiative, also the first of its kind in the country, to provide infrastructure workers with up to $10,000 in incentives to help meet the unprecedented demand for public works projects. And I encourage all of our regional partners to continue the focus on workforce development and make it a key priority, as we have done in Maryland. Second, we need to continue to reinvest in public safety, which is essential to economic development and neighborhood revitalization. Earlier this year, we enacted a $500 million Refund the Police initiative, which included a 50% increase in state aid to local police to help them recruit and retain more quality officers, to increase diversity, to expand community policing efforts, and to improve training. And our initiative also fully funds victim service providers and advances neighborhood safety grants to support security upgrades for community organizations, business districts, main streets, and neighborhoods all across Maryland. And I was encouraged to see that both Mayor Bowser and Governor Youngkin have now also advanced increased investments in police. And with all the challenges that law enforcement is facing, I think it's critical that we continue to maintain and expand these investments to keep our communities safe. But lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we still need to address the soul-crushing traffic congestion. I can't take credit for that line, but that's a soul-crushing traffic, which is the single biggest threat to economic competitiveness in this region. And after literally decades of inaction, our administration has literally been spending the past 8 years leading by example, putting aside partisanship to try to seek bipartisan, common sense solutions to solve some of these serious infrastructure issues and to actually get things done. We recently opened a brand new bridge across the Potomac River, a new Potomac River crossing between Maryland and Virginia on Route 301. It's pretty rare to actually announce an initiative, plan it, and then complete it. A major crossing of this magnitude in one administration, but we got it done on budget and ahead of schedule. We spent the past 8 years advancing nearly every single one of the highest priority infrastructure projects in every single jurisdiction all across our state. But we inherited 69 structurally deficient bridges, and 95% of those bridges have been repaired or replaced, and the remaining few are currently under construction. We resurfaced nearly 100% of our entire state highway system. We've made unprecedented and historic investments in both transit and roads, more than any previous administration. And the state of Maryland has also been aggressively pursuing P3 projects to decrease the cost to taxpayers and to generate billions of dollars in much-needed revenue for our economy, while also delivering infrastructure projects faster than would literally be possible by using existing resources. At the Port of Baltimore, which has been breaking cargo records year after year, the Maryland Port Authority entered into a P3 with Ports America Chesapeake so that the port could handle the largest ships in the world. And after spending years working with CSX on another public-private partnership, last November we broke ground to expand the 127-year-old Howard Street Tunnel, which will allow us to double-stack container trains, clear a decades-long hurdle for the Port of Baltimore. It's a major East Coast rail bottleneck. This will generate 14,000 new Maryland jobs. I know it's the Port of Baltimore, but it's close. Not the Washington region, but important nonetheless. I know some of my Virginia friends, I hate to even say this one because some people are not going to like to hear it, but BWI continues to be the #1 airport in the region for passenger traffic. It's also one of the most convenient and efficient and thriving airports in the nation. And we recently approved the latest and largest capital construction project in the airport's history, which will accommodate even more growth. Last year, a national survey named Maryland as the single most improved state for business in America, based in part on our relentless focus on infrastructure, innovation, and with the support of our partners in the private sector. But that same study also identified the unacceptably long commute times in the Washington metro area, which it rated as the second worst in the nation, as one of our biggest weaknesses. And we're utilizing private sector partnerships to take an all-inclusive approach to tackle that problem. We're building the Purple Line, which is the largest P3 transit project under construction in North America. And once complete, this multi-county 16-mile east-west rail line will include 21 stations, which will integrate seamlessly with Metro and MARC trains and Amtrak and provide more transit options. We were the first in the region to propose a real solution to address the crisis of Metro's $500 million a year shortfall. And we brought all three jurisdictions together and worked across the aisle to enact legislation marking the first time in history that Metro has received a dedicated source of funding. But most importantly, with your help, we're also moving forward with an historic and transformative traffic relief plan, which the Washington Post editorial board called the most important project for the Washington region in more than 50 years. This P3 will deliver a new American Legion bridge across the Potomac connecting Maryland and Virginia. It'll make major upgrades to the Capitol Beltway, 495 and I-270, and it will help break the back of the second worst traffic congestion in America, which has plagued our region for decades. And it will also create thousands of jobs and boost our economy and help us attract even more economic development to the region. It is the result of unprecedented regional coordination, including a Capital Beltway Accord with the state of Virginia that Governor Northam and I signed and announced right here with the Board of Trade in 2019. And this project has now received final federal approval from the Biden administration. And after decades of delays and doing nothing and kicking the can down the road, with your support, we have brought the region to the goal line to finally address this traffic congestion. And this federally approved project must move forward, or the consequences would be catastrophic for the region. So I know that in the months to come, we can count on the Board of Trade to continue pushing for this generational and transformative project. And in closing, I just want to say that, well, with all the divisive and toxic politics that we see in Washington, it can be really discouraging. I think we should be proud that our partnership within the region has always been strong, regardless of the politics or the political parties. And I had the chance to work alongside Mayor Bowser and 3 Virginia governors, Terry McAuliffe, Ralph Northam, and now Glenn Youngkin. And every time that there was a crisis or a challenge or a major issue that required our cooperation, whether it was a government shutdown or once-in-a-century global pandemic or the January 6th attack on our nation's capital, we were able to come together and act. And I truly believe that Americans are yearning to be brought together rather than driven apart. And what I think we need is less talk and more action, less politics as usual and more real leadership. And I think that's the example that we have set and that we must continue to set here in the Capital Region. I can say that I'm very grateful for the support and partnership of the Board of Trade. And I want to say that serving as Maryland's governor truly has been the honor of a lifetime for me. We've been through some challenges together, but I can tell you that there has not been a single day, good or bad, when I have not been completely grateful for the privilege of serving. So thank you all very much. And at this time, I'm going to ask Jack McDougall and Keith Hennessy to come up so I can present them with a Maryland Governor's citation to commemorate this 133rd annual meeting of the Greater Washington Board of Trade.